Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Authors on Mission podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Brandon Barnum, the king of referrals, CEO of HOA.com, and best-selling author of Raving Referrals for Real Estate Agents, along with many other books. Brandon has cracked the code on something every entrepreneur desperately needs: how to turn satisfied customers into an army of advocates who can't stop talking about you. So if you've ever wondered why some agents seem to effortlessly attract clients while others struggle to find their next deal, this conversation will give you the blueprint. Not only that, but you'll have the blueprint for writing a book in this sector as well. So I'm looking forward to diving on in. Whether you're a real estate agent or any relationship business or just an author looking to gain some tips, what you're about to learn here could be the difference between grinding for every client and having them come to you gift wrapped with trust. Brandon, welcome to the Authors on Mission podcast.
Thanks, Danielle. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a cool topic. It's something that a lot of our listeners will be really excited to hear about. And yeah, let's get started right away. I do like to start off with getting to know you a little bit more, the person behind the book. Sure. So, I was looking through your materials and, taking it back to 1997 a little bit. You were struggling financially, you were a single dad, but that part of your life kind of ended up being a catalyst for change and helped you kind of grow from that. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all about turning tragedy into triumph, right? And so, I shouldn't say tragedy. I was a single dad. I had custody of my son, and I was making 20 grand a year, and all of a sudden I've got to care for this young boy. And so I was able to get into the mortgage industry, and I had somebody that mentored me in the art and science, what I now call Raving Referrals, and that helped me 10x my income from $20,000 a year to $200,000 a year within 18 months, and that really changed everything. That's what I write about in my book, and I've just been on a mission to help as many people as possible do the same.
That's just incredible, and I like that you have the numbers right there in your back pocket. It's a huge contrast, of course, so I'm sure that's one reason why so many people say, you know what, I need to follow what this guy has to say. They see the success.
Well, that and two, I think the reality is most people know that most of their business comes by referral. And the statistics are that, when somebody's referred to you, they're 400% more likely to hire you, to use you. And so that's why you want to change the game. And, referrals are 16% more profitable overall, and 84% of business to business sales start with a referral. So most people are doing business by referral. They may just not have a system at it. They haven't been trained. And so that's what we're on a mission to do, is train them up and help them win.
Yeah, I love that. It is a really beautiful mission because it's something that a lot of people might overlook or not, spend as much time thinking about, at least. I know that one of your main missions actually is to serve regardless of opportunity. So that's really great that you do that. I'm wondering if you want to share a little story about how this sort of philosophy might have led to some great benefits for a certain client, and perhaps an example of how this works in practice.
Yeah, so serve regardless of opportunity just means give more, right? It means be generous, pay it forward. One of the things I love to do, I love to be a charity champion and make a difference and support local charities, and you never know what's going to come out of it. So one of the earliest memories I have of where serving without focusing on myself made a difference is I used to raise money and awareness for a charity called Northwest Medical Teams. And through that, I was asked to help out, and I was volunteering. I served on their corporate industry council to raise awareness money with business owners. And they asked me to help with their big fundraising event. Well, I was able to get the speaker to come to this event, and the speaker was Mark Victor Hansen. And he's the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. He's the best-selling nonfiction author of all time. He sold over 600 million books. Well, because I was able to start a relationship by inviting him to come and speak at this event. And actually, I paid for his speaker fee out of my own company because I didn't want it to impact the charity. And I was doing fine financially at that point. Mark and I now have been friends for 21 years, and he's been my personal mentor. This man has changed my life, but it all started with serving and focusing on making a difference for others. And in that process, I've been richly rewarded. So I always try and help people become a charity champion and share whatever charity or cause they're most passionate about.
Wow, well, that's amazing to know that your story, your path also kind of came because of those referrals, those connections. It's important to know it. I think everybody needs to keep in mind, as much as we might want to take a solidary approach to a lot of our, projects and endeavors, it really does take a team and knowing the people that are going to help you along the way. So it's great that you've made that connection with the author. And I'm sorry, his name was what again?
Mark Victor Hansen.
Mark Victor Hansen, right. I have read a bunch of the Chicken Soup books, especially as a child, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Quite the classics. But again, really great that you made those connections and you're still in touch today.
Yeah, I just talked to him the other day. He wrote The 1 Minute Millionaire, which is a book that changed my life. That was actually after Chicken Soup for the Soul. That book made a huge difference. It's a brilliant book because it's two books in one. It's a nonfiction step-by-step how to build success and a fable, and the two go hand in hand. So the left-hand side pages are the nonfiction book, the right-hand side is the fable, and it's the most amazing book. So anyway, it changed my life. I ended up reaching out to him, becoming friends with him, and it just changed so many things as a result of that relationship. And here we are 21 years later.
Right. And is it true that you're actually featured in one of his books? Did I see this correctly?
Yeah, so after I met with him, he challenges everybody to write 101 goals. Well, I wrote 338. And one of my goals is that I wanted Mark Victor Hansen to write about me in a book by May 28th of the following year.
You put him on a little bit of a tightrope then.
Well, it's what he teaches, right? Is that when
Right.
we create our goals, that we need to have dates by when we're going to accomplish them all. And so I have dates for goals all the way through the year 2050. So for the next 25 years, I've got hundreds of things I want to accomplish, achieve, and that's all because of what I learned from Mark Victor Hansen. Well, when I came back from Hawaii and went through that process and created all those goals, one of those was I wanted him to write about me in a book a year later. And a few months after meeting him, he calls me up one day and he says, Robert Allen and I are writing the follow-up book to The 1 Minute Millionaire. It's going to be called Cracking the Millionaire Code. Would it be okay if we write about you? And I'm like, oh yeah, come on, that's what we want. And so that book was published May 31st, 2005, 3 days after my goal date. And I'm like, that was proof positive that you can have anything you desire and dream. You just have to write it down and you got to focus all your attention on it. And it's amazing what'll come to pass.
That's beautiful. I'm really glad that came into fruition for you. And I was just laughing before because I thought it was so funny. So he told you to write down those goals and then just kind of slide in there. One of my goals is for you to write about me. And then of course he kind of was like, all right, well, I guess I'll reach back out to Brandon and get him in my book. But no, I mean, of course you earned your place there based on the principles you put in place and what you've been teaching in your own writing and so on and so forth. So really cool story there. You're the living practice of what you teach, which is even better. A lot of authors come up with a framework or advocate for a certain thing, but they haven't lived that experience. Everything you told me so far only amplifies that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think it's super important that you write about what you do well. But some people are reporters. They write about what other people do, and that's okay. But I think the audience, the reader, when they see your story and that zero to hero moment, especially to all the prospective authors that are listening right now, if you can tell that story of the challenge that you faced, and often there's a guide that comes in, right? It's that hero story. And usually the hero has a guide. In my case, that guide was Mark Victor Hansen. He changed my life and he helped me take from where I was to where I wanted to be.
that's just beautiful. I love it. Well, kind of transitioning a little bit into the book, into one of the books at least. I'm wondering if you'd like to start off. Can you show off those covers for us? Right before the show, you showed me a whole stack of them right here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this was one of the things that I learned from Mark Victor Hansen. He says, don't write a book, build a brand. And so the first book that I did back in 2021 was Raving Referrals, and that was the one that started it all. And then following what I had seen Mark done with Chicken Soup for the Soul, I came up with different books that were specific for different industries. First dentists, and then mortgage pros, and then this last book is Raving Referrals for real estate agents. So this one we just published this year, and I've got 4 more that are scheduled to come out here before the end of 2025.
Very impressive. You must have been really grinding away on the Google Docs then.
The beauty of the co-author book is that I wrote the first book, and for each subsequent book, I choose a co-author that's an expert in the industry. They've got all the stories, they've got all the success, and they've got the network and the connections. Because I know here we're talking to authors, and one of the things that I wanted to do was create a great book launch team, right? And so in this last book, we feature over 250 different influencers, experts, companies that are at the pinnacle of the real estate industry. And by featuring them and spotlighting them in the book, what happened was before we launched the book, we were able to reach out to them, share what we were saying about them, and then actually get them engaged and involved in helping us take the book to market. So, that's one of the strategies I learned from Mark that is just brilliant. And, any of your authors that are listening need to be doing the same thing, thinking when you write the book, how do you write the book to sell? How do you incorporate other people that already have the audience that you're looking to attract so they'll take your book out to the world for you?
That's an amazing thing to think about. It's collaboration, one. It also eases the scope of work on yourself, but it also gives you more credibility right then and there. Somebody is interested in learning more about one particular author, the person who might have a wider audience, and then just by nature, they're led to you. I love that. Very clever.
And not only that, so one of the things that we do, like in the back of the book, is I've got the top real estate podcasts that we detailed and we featured them in the book. And so that's led to podcast opportunities, right? I just had a CEO of a real estate CRM reach out to me and text me a few minutes ago and just scheduled a call for Friday. So what that has done by featuring other influencers and icons in the industry, it's opened up doors that otherwise I'd have to work for. Now they're calling to me. So it's really attraction marketing, right? It's pull marketing rather than always having to push.
I like that, pull marketing rather than push. It's that's a good saying right there. It's really incredible. So it was actually Verl Workman that you collaborated with. Is that correct?
Yeah, on the last book. Yep, Verl Workman is my co-author on that book.
Understood. So I think just speaking to the authors listening today who also might be considering working with a co-author, collaborating with somebody, I'm wondering if you can guide us through that a little bit. Did you encounter any specific challenges along the way, or perhaps maybe it was an easy process? What was your balance there?
Yeah, I'd say the first co-authored book was the most challenging because I'd never done it before, right? And what I did in the very first book that I wrote, again, it's all about vision casting and really setting the vision for what it is that you want to do. And so in the very first book that I wrote, I had this section of become a Raving Referrals co-author, and I came up with 20 different titles that I wanted to write in the future. So I already had this vision for creating a complete series of books, again, like a Chicken Soup for the Soul. But when I did the first book, co-author book, I'd never done it before. So I had to figure a bunch of stuff out. So what I did was I provided the first book to the co-author and said, okay, I want you to take this content, this curriculum, this construct, and apply it to that specific industry. And what I want is success stories and quotes and experts, people that we can feature. And so that's the process that we went through. And I think the challenge was keeping the project on track, right? At this point, like I have 4 books going on right now, and I'm not leading any of them. I have different co-authors where they're taking the book and they're creating the custom content for the book. And so the biggest challenge is just making sure you manage the project well, keep that co-author on a timeline, have regular check-ins, because it's not just me writing the content. I'm relying on somebody else in this case.
It's really interesting to think about. It also, it kind of goes into project management more so than anything else, it seems. Just making sure that they're staying on task. They got their responsibilities in order so that you can focus on your own. That's really curious because I think my first instinct for co-authorship would have been, perhaps a disagreement on vision or this chapter should have this content, so on and so forth. But for you, it sounds like for the most part, you are pretty aligned with content. Is
Well,
that
the,
true?
the core content's done, right? I mean, the core content is exactly the same. I'm teaching the same book. I'm just teaching it to different industries. So the scripts are custom for that industry. The language gets customized, the examples, the success stories. But the core concept is the same. The 7 laws of raving referrals are the same identically in every single industry. Now we're teaching the custom concept and implementation to that industry. I think
Understood.
you can
Got
use
it.
that same concept in a lot of different industries. So, if you've got kind of that self-help book and you've got one strategy that would apply to different industries and verticals, then you can use that same concept. And what it's done for me is that now I've got different experts in different industries. And what I'm doing is I always make sure there's a back end, right? So selling books is not the reason that we do this. Number one, it's about impacting people's lives and really transforming the lives of the reader, helping them get the result that they're after. But number two, what we do is we have calls to action built in to every chapter. So I've got QR codes going to different landing pages or lead magnets to give them more information and to give them more tools to help them win. But what that does is that takes them from an Amazon buyer where we don't have their information to now they're in our funnel and maybe participating in our group coaching or one of our other offers.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I always advocate for that. If you write a book, don't just leave it at the book. Include other mediums to promote it through. And by integrating, different callbacks to your lead magnet or to your courses, maybe in your social media, it only helps promote your brand. That's perfect.
You got it. That's it.
I love it. So these are all some very incredible tips for our audience to take home with them today and implement in their own planning process of their writing. So kind of going back into your mission, I'm wondering if you're planning any additional books to the Raving Referrals series?
Yeah, so I have 4 right now. The first one that's scheduled to come out is Raving Referrals for Christian Business Pros. So specifically, we've got a book targeting and empowering the Christian community. And then we've got one for Raving Referrals for business coaches, Raving Referrals for business brokers and M&A advisors, because I've got an expert in that space that wants to do the book. And then the last one is Raving Referrals for commercial real estate agents. So 4 different books, 4 different target audiences, and we really use that book as a tool to attract people into our mission and in the case of Christian Business Pros ministry.
Understood. I think you might have mentioned this actually before, so I do apologize. I think you mentioned you had some other things in the works, but I'm glad that we got a little bit more details about those because it is important that people know what to expect because it's really just really good. They're transforming the brand from one to many, which is what you mentioned before too. So really
Well,
cool stuff.
and I really want to expand people's minds. So, if you're
Yeah.
listening right now and you're thinking you've got one title for your book, can it be bigger? Can it be better? Can you put it into a program? So you mentioned a course, right? We have a Raving Referrals video course where I've essentially recorded the entire book in a video series of short little vignettes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, where somebody can have a cup of coffee, they can grab a quick tip and then go on their day and make more money and live a better life, right? So that's one thing. The other thing that we've done that I think some people might be able to do as well with your books, if you're listening, is we've created a Raving Referrals certified trainer program. So I've taken the content from the book and then created a 2-hour course for real estate agents specifically. And now what I'm doing is I'm selling mortgage lenders on being able to teach and train this class. Why? Because a mortgage lender, which I'm a former mortgage lender, they want to be in front of rooms full of realtors so that they can attract them in and build a relationship and help them and then attract their referrals. So what I'm doing with the certified trainer program is we're empowering the mortgage lenders to be able to stand in front of a room full of realtors and deliver our turnkey content. And we're charging handsomely for that, by the way. But then the other thing we're doing on the back end is every realtor that comes through our class, at the end of that class, we have a QR code custom to that trainer. The realtor scans the QR code, completes a survey, how they rate the class, how they rate the trainer, and we ask them for referrals. And what happens is, for all the agents that go through these classes that are happening in markets all across the country, we're capturing all of the leads, no matter where the class is, and we share that info back to the trainer so they have the information on their class. But for every person that sits in our class, they refer 1.1 other people on average. So we ask for referrals, they give us referrals, and then we ask them if they'd like us to teach this at their organization. And what happens is, normally one class leads to 3 to 5 others. So, we're using these different modalities to take the book, turn it into a video course or a live class where now I've got other people that are teaching the content, and we're capturing all of the leads nationwide. So
it's a great system. You're able to just collect people who might be interested in the service, have them on your back burner, get ready to, suggest more titles to them when new ones come out, because you are constantly producing new material targeted to different industries. So perfect stuff. I love that. But kind of circling back to that idea, I've been kind of curious, you've been coming up with new ideas for new industries, but it's all the same basic framework for the most part.
Yes.
So
right.
How do you keep it fresh and not repetitive? I mean, I would assume that a lot of the tips might just be the same across the board. Would you disagree?
Yeah,
how do you keep it fresh?
They are. Well, it's fresh for the reader or the student because they've never heard it before, right? We have some people that will come to the class twice because they want that refresher, to use your word, fresh. But otherwise, a realtor, they're going to come to a class one time, and they're going to get the information that they need. Now, we teach the art of the ask. It's one of the things that we teach. Well, it's a different art of the ask if it's a real estate agent versus an insurance agent. The basic framework is the same, but they customize the language to their specific industry. But what keeps it fresh is most people haven't heard it before, right? And so they'll listen to it once, maybe twice, and then they're going to find another expert teaching them another thing. But what happens is we have different people teaching it to different industry verticals, and that's how we're able to get deeper and deeper into the different industries.
Understood. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's something a lot of the listeners to today's podcast could also keep in mind, in order to keep things unique. That's exactly what we can do. So amazing stuff.
Okay. And I think, Danielle, the biggest key here is, how do you take your message, your mission that's behind your book, and how do you get it out to the world, right? What we've done is, now I've got other people. It's not just me teaching this content. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. If it was just me, it would only be able to impact a certain number of people. But now I've got trainers in Denver, I've got trainers in Dallas, I've got trainers in California and South Carolina. So that's really what's unique here, and what I'm trying to get the audience to expand their thinking. Because what you want as an author is, you want to impact as many people as possible. Do you want them buying your book? Sure, you betcha. But your book probably leads to some other way that you're serving them. And if you can expand your brand and get other people teaching your course, your curriculum, your content, now you've got a lot more people out there, and you're truly building a movement.
Exactly. I love that. And that kind of just goes right back to the idea of referrals, right? And building those connections. And because you never know who's going to be the ones who spread your message next. So it's amazing stuff. So speaking of that, though, if people do want to get connected, they want to stay in touch, they want to know what's next on the radar for you, how can they best connect it? What's the best link for them to head to after this podcast today?
Yeah, so for me, check out brandonbarnum.com. That is all about me. That's got links to different things that I'm involved in. My day job is running HOA.com, and then the Raving Referrals and Referral Champion is sort of my side hustle, if you will. But I wrote the book to really empower the HOA.com community and just professionals overall. But if you go to brandonbarnum.com, you'll find information about those and other things that we're doing.
Well, perfect. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's wonderful. We're going to put the link of that into the description box of this podcast today. So if you're listening, guys, go ahead and click on over, learn a little bit more. And so, Brandon, I'm wondering if you happen to have any other specific tips for the writers of this audience today, anything they should be keeping in mind aside from what we might have already discussed?
Yeah, I think the final thing, if I could have one message that I would leave, is have a business plan behind your book. Your book is not just about you getting your message out of yourself and onto the world, but there should be some other purpose for it. It doesn't have to be, it can be just that. Like for some people, that's enough. But if you really think about your book as a message, as a marketing tool, you can attract so many people and you can impact so many people and you can make a change in people's life. But you have to think strategically about how you're going to use your book more than just post it on Amazon and people are going to buy. Great. That's awesome. That is the first step. But what's the second step? What are you going to do beyond that? And how can you use your brand to get it on other people's brains so that you can create as much impact, influence, and income as possible?
That's perfect. Yeah, I feel the same way. You can't just take a book and put it on a shelf and expect it to sell or expect your name to be heard. You need to do it intentionally, like you mentioned, with a brand in mind, with what comes next in mind. So amazing stuff. That's why I always do with my clients too. What's our end goal here, right? And then you structure the book from there.
What's the mission, right, Danielle?
Right,
That's what you call your podcast, Authors on a Mission, right?
That's exactly right.
That's what it's all about. And if you have to have a plan, if you're going to create it as a mission, it's not just going to happen organically. You've got to have a vision for it first and foremost, and then you got to put your plan in action so that you're on mission.
I love it. It's the perfect note to end the podcast today with. I love your approach. I mean, I can tell that it's more than just sales tactics that we're talking about here. It's a way to build these connections, to draw upon human strength, caring about people, helping them win. So it's great stuff.
Yeah. Unity through community. That's what it's all about. How do we create unity? How do we impact more people and, make a difference with the days that we have?
Definitely. It's exactly that. So yeah, listeners, again, you can find Brandon at ravingreferrals.com. Be sure to check with him on all those links that we'll have in the description box today. And of course, check out Raving Referrals for Real Estate Agents and the rest of the series as well. Amazing stuff for you to learn in there. Whether or not you're an agent, you can definitely learn some insights based on our conversation today. If it's in the book, it's something to be learned from. So amazing. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. It's really been a pleasure. I think that we've learned a ton in today's episode.
Oh, thank you, Danielle. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And for all you authors out there, get on mission, go make a difference and change your lives while you're changing other people's lives.
I love it. All right. Well, hold that with us today. And everybody, be sure to check out the book. We'll see you next time on Authors on Mission podcast. Have a great evening. This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.